Do you consider yourself to be awake and aware? Do you even understand what I mean by that statement? Are you questioning my sanity right now? My powers of rational thought, maybe? Let me ask you another seemingly inane question. What do you see when you look around you? Now just think about that for a moment. You're probably thinking that you see solid objects, the walls of the room you are occupying right now, with all it contains. You can touch these objects and they feel solid, substantial, tangible. This is real, right? It even tastes real. This is reality. And anyone who says it's not is delusional. You are no fool. You are well-grounded, down to earth, a rational thinker. There is no pulling the wool over your eyes. You only believe what you can see and touch. Your five senses don't lie. Let others have their fantasies. You turn on the news or you pick up a newspaper and you are presented with the current big stories. You follow along with the narrative. The journalist presents the relevant sound bites, shows you graphic pictures describing the present news item, and you're hooked. The news is bad, as usual, and your ire is being irked. You feel yourself rising to the occasion and start grinding your teeth in anger. Or you are becoming fearful and wish you could hide yourself from this crazy, insane world. And so you bury your head in the sand. You are being shown the world in all its gory mess. This is reality. This is the normal way of perceiving the world, the only logical one, the one I once believed was the norm. Surrounded by objects and things, people, plants and animals. A rationality that tells us we are part of a very intricate society made of things. We are objects surrounded by other objects. This is sanity and correct thinking. But this is a perception developed and organized through a narrow logic, based solely on a mechanical interpretation of reality, which is that we are merely meat machines, surrounded by solid, non-sentient objects, and it is only through reason that we can function effectively in this world. But limited cognitive structures like this rational scaffolding impose only a limited logical framework on the average person. And this limited environment rules the many diverse sciences and philosophies that we now practice in today's world. But those who are awake and aware see a vastly different existence. In the last video, we recalled what Nikola Tesla said about discovering the mysteries of the universe, that we must think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Some philosophers have described our reality in terms of being surrounded by infinity. But as we look around, we think that we are beings that live in a world surrounded by objects, and that we are objects ourselves, albeit sentient ones. Alchemists discovered long ago that we are all lost in a perceptive illusion. This illusion hides the fact that there are no objects out there. There is only energy, frequency, and vibration. And while some could argue that there are certain energetic assemblies, or molecules if you like, that might act upon humanity in a way that we have learned to describe as objects, the fundamental reality is that those objects and the solidity we ascribe to them is an illusion, an imposed illusion. There is a certain breed of scientist emerging today who is using a, how shall we say, more sophisticated logic and discovering and revealing some of the great mysteries of the universe known long ago, but now largely forgotten. And in the process is destroying the limited cognitive stance of the old materialistic paradigm. And the awakened portion of the population seeing this realizes that the old way has conditioned humanity to act like schizophrenic madmen. Physics has revealed a world of energy and seemingly magical interconnectedness, described in quantum physics as entanglement. Biology is revealing new facts that show the inadequacy of modern evolutionary causality models. And this doesn't necessarily come from a religious bias. So what's it all about? Asking questions like this gives a kind of authenticity to the questioner. We are the ones not fooled by the matrix. We question everything. Why? Now, place this rediscovered knowledge within the context of the controllers of the planet and their agenda, that pyramidal system of the power-hungry elite. When we do that, then I think it becomes obvious that this is a manipulated reality. And when you pluck up the courage to go deeper down the rabbit hole, you realize the world is far darker than we knew possible. You watch the mainstream media and you think you have a handle on reality. Let me tell you now, if that's your only source of information, then you have no idea what's going on. Corporate media is a factory of lies. Is there such a thing as the noble lie? A lie often used in the media that is given out with good intentions. I watched this video with British journalist, author and historian Neil Oliver with great interest. This is a man with his finger on the pulse of the corrupt media.
But already the media, the traditional mainstream media, are in position and on message. They're cheerfully out there supporting the suggestion, you tub-thumping and saber-rattling that Russia or, God knows, Iran, China, whatever, is poised to threaten us directly, and that the thousands and then the tens of thousands might ready themselves. Is the establishment really imagining that where Ukraine has led, that corrupt entity, that anti-democratic laundry for dirty money, that where Ukraine has led, we might follow? Mass graves in the forests, the dead out of sight and out of mind. We know the ranks of the establishment are filled, at least in part, by sociopaths, even psychopaths, who are drunk on the power they've awarded themselves. And in order to keep feeding the high, they're looking for more and more outrageous and egregious ways to further an agenda that's fundamentally anti-human, that holds all human life in contempt. But they can't help themselves. They're drunk on power. They're sociopathic. And the thrill of it, even if they do contemplate the consequences, the thrill of doing it, making people frightened, exercising that power, is irresistible to them. So they keep doing it. You've got to remember that they don't like us. It's really important to see that. They may even hate us. Are we really going to watch our children or anybody else that we care about march away to fight and die for those who despise them? The enemy is not Russia. The enemy is not Iran. The enemy is not China. And those are nation states. So it's certainly not, the enemy is not the Russian people or the Iranian people or the Chinese people, because the mass of those populations are just people like you and me who are determined only to see their children grow up to live decent and hopefully long, healthy lives, unperturbed by machinations of madness. The enemy is those in government. Also missing, absent without leave, in some sinister way, are the professional journalists. And they've been gone a long time. Instead of honest, trained, professional men and women investigating and searching for truth, journalists, in the true sense of the word, driven by something inside them to inform the people about what's really going on, to challenge authority, to ask awkward questions, to risk being unpopular in the face of authority figures. to find out what's really going on behind our backs. Instead of that, we have a legion of lackeys, establishment toadies, bought and paid for and doing nothing more or less than pushing state propaganda. Back in 2021, which feels like another world now, I spoke to a gathering assembled by the Legatum Institute. It's kind of a think tank. And in a light-hearted tone, I quoted man of letters Humbert Wolff and his short poem, The British Journalist, which goes, "You cannot hope to bribe or twist, thank God, the British journalist, but seeing what that man will do unbribed, there's no occasion to." Ha ha. Those words have come back to haunt me now as I contemplate the reality that professional journalism in this country is a dead parrot. It has ceased to be. Joined the choir invisible, as Monty Python had it. But in its place has risen, thank God, a veritable army of citizen journalists. Untrained for the job they may be. Maybe don't even want the job. But realising the absence of anyone else prepared to look for and then tell the truth. Unwilling or not, they've stepped up and risked all to do what needs to be done, which is to tell the truth. And all over the internet, though their output is defamed as misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. Do you know what malinformation is? Malinformation is information that the authorities acknowledge is true, but doesn't help them push their case. So it's inconvenient truth. That's what malinformation is. Yeah, that's true, but we don't want anyone knowing that. But they still prosecute for malinformation. But citizen journalists, an army of same, is out there telling the truth in the face of an enemy army, better equipped perhaps, but lacking any soul, any human soul. That enemy is trying and failing to defeat the army of citizen journalists, to cow them into silence. And that's just the profession of journalism. One among many. Throughout our dangerously eroded civilization, it's the same, where those tasked with work of vital importance are failing to deliver. You walked away; they're just absent. They're not there, or what they're doing is a corruption and an inversion of what they were traditionally supposed to do. So that what we will need in the future are citizen armies, right enough, though not the sort being suggested in the media right now in relation to forever war with Russia. In the face of corrupted and ruined institutions, medicine, politics, the law, education, you name it, citizen armies will be required to step up and take the places of all those that have let us down. We need alternatives for all of it. New schools, new universities, new administrations, new assemblies. It sounds daunting, sounds impossible even, but it's not. And for the sake of the future of civilization in the West, it can't be impossible. It must be possible.
Becoming conscious is vital. We need to realize our full potential, that we are not just an exploitable resource. If we remember who we are, we will be ungovernable, uncontrollable, unmanipulated. We must become conscious to be able to distinguish fact from fiction. Corporate media's job is to ensure this remains a manipulated reality. Don't fall for it. I'm the Grumpy Grandpa.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
We are currently placing a magnifying glass over a very disturbing series of events prophesied in the book of Revelation, the breaking of the 7 seals. We have looked at the first 3 and have now arrived at the 4th.
And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth.
Now, before we continue, a quick explanation is needed. I said in the last video that I thought Jason had mistakenly ascribed the 25% of the world's population mentioned in the text to the wrong seal. I retract that. He explains later that what we have in the seals, or in the present seal, is a continuation of events through the various seals. So that explains that. I did say I probably had got it wrong. Now, this continuation makes sense. This ongoing conflict between Islam and Christianity is stretched between the seals, and I'm assuming he means from the second, where peace is taken from the earth, to the present. But this is archaic material, don't forget. And in trying to get my head around all that he has to say is daunting sometimes. Mistakes will be made. But as you will have noticed by now, well, at least I hope so, I own up to them. Now, we are presented in the King James Version of the Bible with a pale horse. Again, this is a mistranslation. The word in Greek is chloris, a pale green. The colors, don't forget, identify the riders of the horses. The name that sat on this green horse is Death, and hell followed with him, and power is given them over 25% of the earth's population. Remember, this isn't the Great Tribulation. This is the breaking of the seals. And we are not told that a quarter of the earth's population is going to die. What we are being told is that a fourth of the world's populace will experience things like death, disease, famine. 75% won't be affected by this, but it will be sufficient to make the rest sit up and take note. Some will be killed by beasts of the earth, we are told. Now, I have no idea what this means. Neither does Jason, so it appears. A new technology, maybe, which sends animals crazy? A pathogen that infects them and makes them attack humans? I don't know. But the inference is a quarter of the earth's population will be affected by one of these things, but not necessarily all by the same event. What's making the inclusion of death and hell in this seal interesting is that this is spoken to he that overcometh, he who is awake. Now we see this repeated throughout. Those who will be given a white robe and a white stone, remember that. Those who are marked out, in other words, to exit the simulation when the time comes, when the chief cornerstone arrives. When this chief cornerstone becomes the head of the corner. Now Jason sees this as the capstone of the Giza pyramid, descending, figuratively I assume. He sees the individual stones of the pyramid as representing the awakened. There's where the white stone comes in. The chief cornerstone takes its place at the apex of the pyramid. And then the Exodus begins. When you see these signs, you'd better wake up. You'd better become conscious, because time is short. This seal marks the end of the 4 horsemen. It's the end of the tetramorph, the 4 beasts. What happens from here marks a change. The following seal, the 5th seal, is about what happens to people after death. The next seal does not unfold on the earth. Hell and death have introduced a new phenomenon. When you die, the consequence is that you are no longer recycled back into the construct to get another chance of a further life sim. You are now quarantined. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He that is righteous, let him be righteous still. This 4th seal is broken in 2032 and continues the violence of the previous seals. It seems difficult to believe, doesn't it, when you see all the level of violence happening right now, that it can continue for all that time. And this continuation includes the corruption of the genome introduced by pharmacia in the first seal, the violence of the second, the economic strangulation of the third, and the fourth seal, summing it all up. Now, I'm not saying that all of this is definitely going to happen. I am merely presenting a possibility. This is the conviction of someone who has done a huge amount of study with ancient writings and the earliest calendars. This is someone who knows his stuff, so he gets my attention. I have my problems with this narrative, but I'm not going to be guilty of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I want to be prepared on all fronts for what might be coming our way very soon. But I'm also not going to be shackled to one possibility. I will continue to monitor other potentialities, such as the remote viewing information that continues to come out and give clarity to the overall picture. You might be interested in this little clip.
One of the greatest mysteries ever solved. Hi there, crypto fans. Dick Allgaier here in the beautiful Hawaiian Islands. When skeptics are told about remote viewing, one of the challenges they often make is, if remote viewing was true, then why don't you find something? Why don't you solve one of the great mysteries? And we may have done that at the Hawaii Remote Viewers Guild. Feedback coming a quarter century later on a target, on a mystery that is dating back to the earliest part of the 20th century. Talking about Amelia Earhart. This is one of history's great mysteries. Amelia Earhart set out to fly her plane around the world, and on one of the final legs coming across the vast Pacific Ocean, disappeared, was never heard from again, and people have been wondering where she went down, where's the plane, what happened to her. We worked this at the Hawaii Remote Viewers Guild in the late 1990s as a long-time project, double-blind work, many sessions, and we presented our findings in public on a number of occasions. This is me at the IRVA conference in 2001.
Don't ever use remote viewing to play Keno numbers.
I was giving a presentation on determining location in remote viewing, how you can use your remote viewing skill using intersection, resection, and plotting from known locations to find an unknown location. And some of the data that we published in public at that conference was our location data on Amelia Earhart. We had a number of fixes and cuts all in the same area of the Pacific. This was not exactly where searchers were looking. People saw our data and said, that's not where she is, that can't be right. But we published it. It was also published in Aperture magazine. So this is on the record in the early 2000s, our location data for Amelia Earhart. So jumping forward to just recently, Tony Romero of Deep Sea Vision has had some expeditions to the South Pacific. He sent an underwater drone down to 16,500 feet. And look at this, the shape and size and outline of what appears to be Amelia Earhart's missing Lockheed Electra. So we're waiting for feedback. Tony Romero and his team will go back with a new drone, underwater drone, with a high-def camera. And if he gets that plane in the tail number, and it is located in the area where our azimuth pointed to, that will be one of the greatest hits in remote viewing history, long awaited. So we're waiting for the next expedition to find her aircraft. Will it be in the area of the... Let me give you an idea of what the size of this task was. From unknown locations, double blind, the size of the Pacific is so vast. And we honed in on a particular area. And if they find that aircraft within the area that we made an elliptical area of probability, our search area using remote viewing data, this will be a remarkable hit. So we're standing by for feedback on this one. A developing story, almost a century in the making.
There is much more to reality than just one paradigm. It would be dangerous to limit ourselves to just one theory of everything. It is certainly madness to keep presuming that the corporate media has our best interests at heart. When I started this channel, I made it very clear that one of my main objectives was to expose the propaganda, hypocrisy, and lies of the mainstream media. And I believe with all my heart that this is a noble task. Until the next time.
If you enjoyed this video, don't be a pussy and subscribe to the Grumpy Old Buggers channel, so I can get some peace and quiet.